Do you think progress is being made?
You know, when you think about the past year, you have to acknowledge we are making progress. George Floyd, first time in Minneapolis that police officers were convicted of second-degree murder in their history for killing a black person, killing anybody. Um, Ahmaud Arbery, who you talked to his parents, Marcus and Wanda, and I mean, he was lynched for jogging while black, and that was in the deep South of Georgia. You had the first trial was 11 white, one black juror, and they convicted the lynch mob. So you have to know that we are making progress, but you know, it's like everything, it's a journey. Uh, on your journey, sometimes you're gonna take a step forward, and then there are gonna be times when you take a step back. But you just always have to keep your eyes focused, eyes on the prize. You just gotta keep trying to move forward no matter what happens.
What's the most important thing that needs to happen to really level the playing field? I was talking to a young black man not long ago, and he quoted somebody having said that when you get stopped by the police at night, it's the most dangerous 5 minutes of your life. And his parents had talked to him about it. And I remember having two young black guys on the show that had been in a confrontation with the police at a fast food restaurant, and their parents were upset and they had gotten into a fracas. And I said, let me tell you something. I want to tell you young men something. When a cop confronts you on the street, you need to respect the badge and do exactly what you're told, because your job is to get home alive. And if you got a problem with what they are doing or said or did, you need to pick your battles and your battlefield.
Amen.
And you go file a complaint and follow up on it, but you don't pick that battle on the street at night, unarmed, with somebody that's got a badge and a gun. Get home alive and pick that battle up tomorrow by filing a complaint or whatever. Don't pick that fight that night. And the parents were just like, my God, thank you. Because
Yeah.
they're proud and they want to stand up for themselves, and that's fine, but not then. That's not a battle you're going to win.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say, get home alive.
Yeah.
And let's deal with this tomorrow. Is that good advice?
No, that's great advice, Dr. Phil. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you credit. I'm going to quote that a lot. I said, that's not the time to pick the battle, and you don't pick that battlefield when you're on the side of a dark street at night where you know if you move a certain way, they shoot and kill you. And the Supreme Court and everybody say they justify it because they were in fear of their life. And, you know, it's the subjective fears of young black and brown people that you just scratch your head and say, man, what is it about a black person that makes you shoot first and ask questions later? And you see videos of young white kids doing all manner of things to police, and they always give them the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of consideration, and the benefit of possibility. And so I think about my law partner, Chris O'Neill, was a police officer 10 years before he became a civil rights attorney. And we so often talk about, police see things differently a lot. And he educates me because I look at it and it's just so clear to me that this was wrong and completely unjustified. But he will say, well, the police, they don't know what situation they're coming into. And he says that. So I understand that. And so your advice is best. Try, even though it should not be our children's responsibility, our community members' responsibility, since they aren't the professionals, the police officers are the professionals, but try your best to de-escalate whatever the situation is, because the goal is to live, to not be killed, and then have other people marching for you as a hashtag. And that, you're right, that's the goal.
That's what I was wanting the parents to say to their black sons. Get home alive. And these young men were saying, but we didn't do anything. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. I don't want you to be a right fighter because I want you to walk out of there, not get carried out of there. Go file a complaint. How many millions of dollars did the New York Police Department pay last year settling claims
Yep.
for misconduct?
Yep.
Get paid. Don't get dead. Get home alive.
And one of the things, well, two things on that point, Dr. Phil. One thing I keep talking about in the documentary is I want to make it, I want to raise the value of Black life in America so much where it becomes financially unsustainable for police to keep shooting Black and brown people in the back, killing us unjustifiably. I, I cannot understand for the life of me why white police officers think it's the most dangerous thing in the world when a Black person is running away from them. I'm like, why would you shoot them in the back and they running away from you? But it's like a cliche almost, Dr. Phil, that, a Black man being shot in the back, I was in fear of my life, but they running away from you. How does that make any sense? And then I go back to doing the comparisons. I was like, why is it that even though Black men make up only 6% of the population in America, you shoot them, when you look at people shot in the back, we like 85%, 90%. You never seem to shoot white men in the back. You don't fear them when they're running away from you? So it's implicit bias, and we got to constantly deal with that. And I'm not saying that it's just the police. I just think, well, and one of the things I learned from you over the years, all of us have implicit biases. We just constantly got to keep working on them so that we don't act upon them.
Yeah, but you don't act upon them, whatever they are, by making a conscious decision not to. And that's what you're doing when you're going through your voir dire with a white jury. You're putting it on their radar where they will make a conscious decision to say, I'm not going to let this control me here. It's been pointed out to me, and I am going to make a conscious decision to not let this be a filter that I look at this evidence through, that I look at this case through. And if you put it at the front of their mind and you don't do it in an accusatory way, you just do it in let's just be honest with each other here, then people can make allowances for it. They can make adjustments for it. That's what we need to do. And I think sometimes it's done in such a in-your-face, hostile way that they get backlash, they get resentment against it. And that's the last thing that we want. What we want is people to really say, that's a good point. I need to consider that, which is what you're doing in front of the jury.
Yeah, and I'm a country boy, and I learned a long time ago from my grandmother that you can get more bees with honey than vinegar. So you go out and you talk to that jury and you don't accuse them of anything. You just try to make them be rational. Look at this from a rational view. And I think when you think about Trayvon to George Floyd in those 10 years, you continue to learn and you evolve. Your style get better. You are more selective and discreet in how you communicate themes and so forth. Because you got to think, Dr. Phil, man, you and I did Trayvon, and that the country was completely polarized. But then you come to George Floyd, and you want to believe we made progress because you saw as many young white people out there marching saying, I can't breathe until we get justice for George Floyd, as there were young Black people. And so that tells me that our message is starting to get through, but we got to keep it up and we got to keep it louder because the hashtags have not stopped.
No, there's no way that a human life is worth a lesson. And you hear people say, well, look, he was no angel. Well, let me tell you, there wasn't anything that he may have done that was a capital offense.
Yeah.
We know that for damn sure.
Yeah.
Thank God that we've got body cams and things like that where people can see what took
Thank
place.
God.
That's a game changer,
I'm
isn't
gonna
it?
digress, Dr. Phil. I don't want to be like the people on the show the other day trying to take control of your show, but I at least want to say this. Um, Body cameras have been a game changer for decades. Black people would say the police are brutalizing me, or they are, they shot us unjustly, and nobody would believe them. Nobody would believe them, but we now have these videos that you say, hold on, you got to look at this video, and you at least got to acknowledge that Ahmaud was just jogging. He was jogging while black. He did nothing wrong to provoke this. And if it were not for video, they never would have been brought to justice. And even with video, it took us 9 months.
Right.
But it's funny because when we were on your show, Dr. Phil, you remember the video had been released, and then you were gracious enough to help us raise the consciousness level of this young man being lynched for jogging while black. And the video that America has saw, we the people who made them finally arrest this lynch mob, was seen by the police on day one.
Yeah.
They saw exactly what we saw, and they said, we okay with it.
That's bothersome. And I know so many men and women in law enforcement that were so appalled by what they saw that it just turned their stomach.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made them furious
Yeah.
to see that. Just made them furious to see it because everybody paints them with that brush.
Yep.
And that's not who they are. It's not the way they are.
And that is the constant struggle, because I think about George Floyd. You saw all 4 of those officers, and you said, hopefully one of them would have had the humanity to say, hey, man, just take your knee off his neck. Everybody in that street was saying, you're killing him, you're killing him. Everybody could see it. Seems like the professionals who were trained to understand it. And so that tells me that it's not just about training. They got to have empathy for their fellow human beings.
There are some people that just shouldn't be in that job because let's think about it. By the time that had happened, that was May 20. By the time that had happened, Ahmaud Arbery had happened, Breonna Taylor had happened, Tamir Rice had happened,
Michael Brown
Ferguson had happened. At that point, a law enforcement officer has got to know, you know what? Everybody standing around here has got a camera. Everybody's got audio. Everybody's hearing them say what they're saying, which means this is foreseeable.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it wrong, it's foreseeable. And all I got to do is move a little bit and set this gentleman up and put him in the car and we're out of here. But to not do that, something's seriously wrong. His problem-solving skills are bad.
You can't even, and you're the expert here, Dr. Phil, but you have to say, what is going through your mind when everybody is telling you you're killing them, and you put your hands in your pocket and keep your knee on his neck for not 1 minute, not 2 minutes, not 3 minutes, not 4 minutes, not 5 minutes, not 6 minutes, not 7 minutes, not 8 minutes, but over 9 minutes. And I always intentionally do that. Hopefully your listening audience will say, hold on, we just used about 10 seconds. This man was almost 10 minutes on his neck and still wouldn't move.
And clearly, at some point 7 minutes ago, ceased to be any kind of threat, if there was ever a threat.
Yeah.
It's impossible to make any sense out of. It's impossible to make any sense.
And I will say this, I give a lot of credit to the Minneapolis Police Department. I saw something I had never seen in my 25 years of practicing law. I saw the police officers come into that courtroom in Minnesota, and they testified against one of their fellow officers. And it was kind of profound, even though we shouldn't have been so shocked by it. But we were shocked because police, they never passed the blue wall and testify against each other, no matter how much. they would always say to black people in our community, well, when you see something, people do something bad, say something, tell somebody. Uh, and they would say that because they would always talk about, oh, well, young black people say we're not gonna snitch and so forth. And so they had these whole big campaigns. If you see something, somebody doing something wrong or criminal, tell on them. And I would always say, why don't you show us how to do it, police? And they never would until George Floyd. And it was historical.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.